Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to have a chat about a cat. Yeah, that's right, I've gone all rhyming. What are we going to do about it? What we got today is Meowscarada EX, and I'm loving this, ladies and gentlemen. I am absolutely loving this. Now, look, we know from earlier, I told you earlier, these are proper Stage 2s. EXs nowadays, proper Stage 2s, and that's a little bit of a pain, because it means you've actually got to, go about getting your proper Stage 2s out. I get this, I understand it, I am all right with this, because you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This one looks really, really good, and I'm kind of loving it, and I'm all in, ladies and gentlemen. I am all in. Oh yeah, and remember, artwork rares are back. So, let's start off having a little bit of a look at these pre-evolution, shall we? Usual rule applies here, which is to say, we've got two of the basics. That's the way it works nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. We get two of the basics when we get a new Stage 2. I'm kind of alright with this. So the 70 HP one has 70 HP, 2 energy, 30. There is nothing special about this, but do bear in mind it does at least have 70 HP. Now the 60 HP one, let me pause while I translate this quickly. Okay, I think what it says is that you get to search your deck for 2 basic energy cards, show them to your opponent, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. It's not actually terrible, honestly, especially when we get to the Stage 2 in a minute. It's certainly more use than anything we've got on the other one, which is fine. I don't like the 60 HP. It's okay, it'll do. And then single energy 10, obviously. But I think the more important thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, is that we've got the artwork rare, and goodness me. Now, Sprigatito, we should know by now, absolute master. Like, when it comes to the Pokemon TCG and doing these cards, Sprigatito is just an absolute master of their craft. But even with that borne in mind, even with the ridiculous level we expect, this is still an absolutely proper job, ridiculous, over-the-top, stunning card. I mentioned in the previous video, I'm going to have to collect these artwork rares. I generally don't collect super rares, or secret rares, I should say, because I don't have infinite money. So I generally just get the sets, not including secret rares. I'll buy a box or two. I'll have the secret rares from the box, and that will do quite nicely. But ladies and gentlemen, I think these artwork rares, I'm going to have to make an exception. Like, cards like this are just... there were so many years in the Pokemon TCG. Well, the artwork's never been bad, don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing the previous artwork. But I'm saying there are so many years where we just didn't have cards like this to enjoy, and now all the time we're getting these kind of cards. It's just, they're absolutely wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. They're absolutely wonderful. But we do have a Stage 1 coming in here as well. Is this one worth getting a little bit excited about? Well, we've got single energy 30, and then we've got 2 colorless energy, 50 damage, and your opponent switches their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. I'm not checking these pre-evolution translations of anyone, but I'm pretty sure they're right. So yeah, it's fine. It's all right. Yeah. Woo. It's not particularly exciting now, is it? Florigato, of course. Florigato. There we go. That's what it's called. I'm not terribly excited about this either. So let's move on to the EX, which I think is worth getting a bit excited about. What we got here is 310 HP, which is slightly low for a Stage 2 EX, but it's fine. And what we've got is a Redonkulous ability, Bouquet Magic. Once during your turn, you may discard a grass energy from your hand. If you do, put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Yes, this is awesome. And I do think at this stage, right, a parallel needs to be drawn with a previous Stage 2 grass first partner Pokemon. This is Decidueye. I mean, it's not Decidueye, let's be clear. It's not Decidueye. But it very much seems like the spiritual successor to Decidueye. Decidueye was just once during your turn you can put 2 damage counters. Fun fact, I was the first person outside of Japan to post about Decidueye GX. I got a video up before anyone even put it on a website or a tweet or anything like that. So I'm quite excited about that. But this is one extra damage counter, yay, although bearing in mind the difference in HP, that is quite important. But you do have to discard a grass energy from your hand, which is a little bit of a pain. Incidentally, this is why I quite like the 60 HP Sprigatito here, because of course that lets you grab a couple of grass energy, so you'll kind of have one in your hand ready to go when you get this rolling and get the ability, which I do very much appreciate. So that's kind of lovely, life is good, yay, woo, etc. Thing is, this is good. This is really good. And actually, to be fair, there is another first partner Pokemon, though we need to go water rather than grass here, which, you know, this should remind you of just a little bit, because the Inteleon VMAX and Fusion Strike says that you can discard a water energy from your hand to drop 2 damage counters on each of 2 bench Pokemon. But that was a VMAX as well, which is single evolution, but also gives up free prizes, so I'm going to let you figure that one out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to let you figure it out. My point is here, this is fine. This is all right. This will work quite nicely indeed. Because then we've got the main attack Scraping Claws, 2 colorless energy, 100 damage, but if your opponent's active Pokemon has any damage counters on it, it does 120 more damage. And obviously here the goal is to use your first attack, or not your first attack, your ability, that's the one, to go and drop those 3 damage counters, and then when they've got all of that damage on, or even just a tiny bit of damage on, then you get to go and do the big attack. So in reality here, what we're looking at is 2 energy, 250. I know it's not 2 energy, 250, but you're going to use your ability, then they're going to have 3 damage counters on, then you're going to do 220, but you've already done 30, so it's going to be 2 energy, 250. And that's actually pretty good. I showed you Quaquavel earlier, that was 2 energy, 230. So 2 energy, 250 sounds alright to me, ladies and gentlemen. This sounds like it'll work rather nicely indeed. But the thing to remember here is you can keep going. And this is one of those Pokemon that kind of adds up quickly. Because if you're playing a Meowscarada deck, you're not just playing a 1-1-1 line. You're probably playing something like a 4-3-3 or a... maybe not free because rare candy exists. But you know my point. You're playing, 4 of the basic and 3 or 4 of the evolution. And some of the stage 1s and some rare candy. So what that means is you are going to have opportunity to get multiple of these out. And that is where this one gets really, 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 really dangerous. Because if you can get 4 of these out, and I know getting 4 of these out is a big ask, all right? That is not lost on me, I understand that. But if you can get 4 of these out, then you're dropping 120 damage counters, well, 12 damage counters, 120 damage, plus the 220 normally, that's 340, and the highest HP we've seen in the Pokemon TCG, a VMAX is like Eternatus, with 340. And look, I know that's getting 4 stage 2s out even with the same evolution line. That is a lot. But it does remain an option. It absolutely does remain an option. Now, it's also kind of a little bit awkward, I grant you, but don't forget about Radiant Blastoise here. Now look, I know it's an awkward one, okay? You got to discard a water energy from your hand, but it lets you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And although you do need to use grass energy for the ability, you don't need to use grass energy for the attack, so you can weave some water energy in here, and then maybe have a play around with Radiant Blastoise as well. And let's not forget I showed you that new Hawlucha the other day, that when you bench it, you get to put 1 damage counter on each of 2 bench Pokemon. And my point is, we've got some very low rent ways to get extra damage counters on at the moment that you could combine in here as well, and then you're getting some really potentially big KOs with Meowscarada here. And I like this very, very much indeed. This also might be a decent time to tell you that Superior Energy Retrieval is being reprinted here. And it's the same card we've seen before, so we don't need to worry about translations or anything silly along those lines, because, well, we've seen it before, ladies and gentlemen. You discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you can go and grab 4 energy from your discard pile, 4 basic energy, and put them back into your hand, which will give you plenty of energy to power this, But then bear in mind, I've also told you that we've got potentially Radiant Blastoise, so you only need to play a couple of Water Energy, and then Superior Energy Retrieval can keep getting them back. This has a real chance to be good. It's still a Stage 2, and it really depends how this format shakes out, but it does seem to be shaping up to be a bit more Stage 2 friendly at this stage. And you know what? If you've got this ability potentially multiple times, plus a bunch of other stuff that we can have a little bit of a play around with, and bearing in mind, I told you about the fact that we've got Inteleon to drop damage counters. Remember, we've got that Eternatus now that when you bench it, lets you search for 2v maxes and bench them. So what you could do here is just, instead of going Radiant Blastoise, go Radiant Eternatus to grab 2 Inteleon and then start going down that route instead. That would also be an option. And I think there is a deck to be made with this. I think this one's worth playing around with. I'm giving this one between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe I'm getting overly excitable. Maybe this is a Stage 2 and it's not going to work. But I want it to work and I think it can. And I'm saying it's good and you can't stop me. But I want to know what you think about this, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know if you think it's good or whether I'm getting overly excitable. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel. You can get some bonus podcasts where I answer all of your questions. You can join a Discord and chat with us about, Pokemon or anything else you want. And you can get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Joseph Fagette, who's one of our supporters for a little while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So thank you very much for all the support and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.